Well, welcome to 1 Million Cups this morning, live from the Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City. Sorry you're stuck with me today. My name is Cameron Cushman. I'm a manager of entrepreneurship here at the foundation. The guy who normally runs this, the very handsome Nate Olson, is actually at the Think Iowa conference in Des Moines, so I'm sure he's watching on the live stream. Hello, Nate. You guys are stuck with me today. Two great startups to hear from today. The first one is going to be Sarah Shipley from Bike Share KC. I'm sure you guys have seen the bike racks in the downtown area. Has anybody ridden one? Okay, well, we're going to hear more about what they're about. A couple of folks here. We're going to hear more about what they're about and their plans for expanding in the city. And then after that, I am very pleased to announce this has been mostly a Kansas City company thing. We did have one company from Omaha, but today we actually have a company from Silicon Valley coming to present to us. So in my mind, this is kind of a huge shift that a company from Silicon Valley wants to come and present at our in Kansas City at our program today. So this is super exciting to have the guys from ThumbTack.com here who are going to present after the break. So we'll make a few announcements at the break, but I want to get right into to the startup. So Sarah, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. You kind of stole my thunder, but who here knows what bike sharing is? Thank you, everybody. All right, so who here has ridden a bike share bike? Okay, and who here is a bike share member? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So this is all about bike sharing and Kansas City B-Cycle. And we are basically, it's very, very simple. It's not working. Where am I pointing? I will point at you.
I think you might have set your computer maybe behind it on presentation.
Anyway, I will tap dance, which I'm very good at. So anyway, Bike Share KC, we have 12 stations and we have 90 bicycles. But the really, really cool thing about Bike Share, and this is my short pitch, is that basically, short pitch, we're a red box for bicycles. So who here uses red box? All right, so it's the same thing just for bicycles. You go to the station, you swipe your card, you pick out your movie or you pick out your bicycle, you ride it for a little while, and you return your bike to any one of our bike share stations. It's easy and it's that simple. We have memberships from daily memberships to 24-hour memberships, weekly memberships, and monthly memberships. And right now, we can also have corporate memberships, and we rely on corporate sponsorship as well. We have about 160 odd members here. Well, I guess our members aren't odd, but we have 160 members in the Kansas City area, and we have a few business members as well. And I'm going to see if these guys are ready for me. Sorry. That's all right. Yeah, it's on the flash drive. Or I can arrow over.
Is it advancing at all?
No, it says product activation failed. I think somebody forgot to pay Microsoft.
Well, whatever. You know what? Let's just talk about bikes. So anyway, we launched on July, I'll just tell stories. We launched on July 3rd, right before the All-Star game. And we launched in, does anyone remember how hot it was this summer? No, it was the most ridiculously hot summer we've ever had. So when we launched with our 90 bicycles and 12 stations, well, it was never under 103 degrees the entire time. Though this put a hamper on, well, our ridership, it did not put a hamper on our efforts or our charisma. So we were out there, we stayed out there, and we had a lot of ridership. In fact, we had some of our highest ridership during the hottest months of the summer. So people are willing to use it, and they are willing to ride. We find that our average riders are, we thought that our average riders would be young professionals living in the downtown area. We did a huge business plan. I'm sure all of you have written one of these. Very, very large, very time consuming. We researched data, did a lot of data mining, and what we found after we read all the data is that, well, our ridership was different than we thought it would be. And this happens quite a bit. Our ridership we thought was young professionals living in downtown from around 3rd to around Union Station area. Turned out to be tourists. Tourists love to ride B-Cycle. They love to use it to go from tourist area to tourist area. They like to put what they shop for in the baskets, and they love to go out with friends and socialize using B-Cycle, which this is fantastic news for us because it even gives us more of a reason to move all the way down to the plaza, to your shopping areas, and to use to work with UMKC to get their students to ride and use the bikes for about everything. So we've got transportation, shopping, and just tons of reasons to use B-Cycle. So anyway, the launch. We launched. We're just a few months old, and we've had some terrific ridership. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, 2 weeks ago, we finally burned 500,000 calories. So all of our riders together, we burned a lot of barbecue, which is amazing. Well, I don't even need it now. Well, I'll just go quickly. All right, we'll just go, and I'll just go quickly. So this is my favorite picture in the world. I think you can recognize it easily, but it is the new spirit of Kansas City. Red Box for Bikes, you heard this. I don't need to do it again. So we're part of a movement. So they're everywhere. We have B-Cycle stations they're all over the world, and they're also in the United States. But the really cool thing about Kansas City's B-Cycle is that we're the only private one in the nation. We're private. We do not take federal funding at this point. We launched on July 3rd in a heat wave. You heard that. We have 12 stations, but in the future, we will have 40 stations and 200 bikes. Now this is the maximum amount of stations that we can have for impact in Kansas City. This relies on density and density of bikes and density of people. And 40 stations and 200 bicycles, because of the research we did, we feel that that is the best number for Kansas City. Now how it works, I said it was like Red Box for bicycles, but basically if you sign up for annual membership, you get a card. The card looks a little like this, just like the one on the screen. And when you go to the B-Cycle station, you touch the station to turn it on, you use the card, you rent the bicycle, and you go. It's very easy. And this is our first member, Teresa Van Akron. And we have just a 3-tier program. So we have individual members, corporate sponsors, and advertising revenue. Now this is a little bit of all the above. So this is from Mobank. They recently just bought an orange bike for marketing purposes, and you can see how all the elements work together. They are a sponsor, they are an advertiser, and we use them for cross-marketing. So just in a few weeks, you might hear about a Spot the Orange Bike campaign. It's cross-marketing, it's advertising, and there are 6, and you can see it up here, distinctive places to advertise on the bike. So you can advertise anywhere on here, and we have very cheap rates if you're interested. We're also super high tech, so we have an app for that. So with the app, you can figure out where is your nearest station. You can figure out how many docks are in a station, and you can figure out how many calories you've burned. And then we also have member and user sites. And this is really important. So once you log in as a member, you can see where you've been. You can see how many pounds of barbecue you've burned off. We also use this information to figure out exactly where people are going. I mean, we want to build the best bike routes and the best bike lanes for Kansas City. We want to make it an active place for transportation. And by using the data we collect, we can make sure that the bike lanes that we build are the bike lanes that people will use. And here's where I tell stories. So cut me off if I do. This is an extremely exciting project for me. But I had no idea how exciting it was going to be until we launched this. Now, previous to the launch, we stored the bikes in a warehouse up in North Kansas City. We needed these bikes built. We did this on a compressed time frame, and we literally had no budget. So I guess you guys, a lot of you know about that. We called for volunteers from all over the city. We called from anyone we could get, and we said, help us build these bikes to bring this to Kansas City, to put these bikes on the ground before the All-Star Game. We want people from the All-Star Game to come here, see what a success it was, see how cool Kansas City was, and then go back and tell their friends about it. We had the most amazing turnout. We had hundreds of people, well, over 100 people spent over 2,000 hours of their time building these bikes in a hot, sweaty, un-air-conditioned warehouse with dust and debris, and we pulled it off. This was in one all-nighter. We had a few of these, and with our volunteers, we are Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City B-Cycle was built by Kansas Cityans, and that is the most exciting part of this entire process. So this is what I have. We are Kansas City B-Cycle. We are Kansas City, and I would love for you to ride with us on our expansion and in Kansas City. Questions?
Tell us about future expansion. You said you have, what, 12 stations now? Where's next, and what are you looking for when you make those decisions?
Well, of course, I'm looking about what we can't talk about here. So there's lots of that. And then when we look at our expansion, we also look for partnerships. So who will become members? Who will help us with giving us part of their sidewalk locations? And who will help with engineering and design? So we need to make sure we have sidewalk space. We need to make sure we have storefront space. So those type of things. What we do is we pull together groups of people. So when we move to the plaza, and that's at Plaza and UMKC is where we think we'd like to be in about 3 years, 3 to 3.5 years. When we move there, we gather a group of people and we make them our champions, and we work together to find the best locations, the best champions, and sponsorship, of course, to get these stations on the ground. Of course.
What's the permitting process like for your sidewalk location?
Well, it's pretty tough. So we work with the city and the person who is the property owner right in front of the location.
And right now you're just in KC Mo, but are you planning to go other places?
Yes, we've had offers and inquiries from a lot of different places. So from North Kansas City, from KCK. We've even had people talk to us out at the Legends. And the Legends would be a perfect spot for something like bike share.
So practically speaking, you have 10 people pick up bikes at location A, they all go to location B, all of a sudden you don't have any at location A. What do? You have somebody driving around moving them?
We do. Well, we incentivize that, and we also have someone to drive around and pick them up. So we incentivize it by sending out a tweet that says, we need bikes moved from here to here, and you get a prize. And people will do it. It's great. People come out and they want to ride the bikes. Or if we have a big event going on, we have a truck that basically balances the bike. And we work with Tricycle Transit, who's a local pedicab driver. We're very bikeapreneur here in Kansas City. Do you like that?
I heard that one yet.
All right. So the local pedicab company, and they help balance the bikes. Yes?
What's the biggest challenge you face?
Wow, biggest challenge. There are lots of challenges, lots and lots of challenges. We worked on such a compressed timeline. We did this in less than a year. When you look at the other bike stations, they did it in 2 years to 3 years. And the biggest challenge, I would say, was lack of sleep and funding. Normal entrepreneurial stuff. Yeah?
I was wondering what you think the role is in terms of changing the transportation culture in Kansas City. I mean, we live in a city where there's plentiful parking and people really like driving. And I mean, much more so than other cities where parking is limited. I mean, how do you, when you talked about tourists being your biggest market,
Right.
How do you expand into the local community and change that culture?
That is a great question, and I will get sentimental when I answer that. I believe bikes and walking and urbanization can change the world. And we are changing culture with things like bike share and bike lanes. And you always come with cities with this, when you're talking about bikes, this chicken and this egg problem. There's not enough bike lanes so people don't bike, but there's not enough bicyclists, and who's going to go first? Well, we decided to go first. It's a huge risk, but we're doing it because we know that bike lanes, bikes, people walking and active transportation will change culture. It will change Kansas City, and it will change people to have a healthy mindset, healthy body, and a great place to live. That's my sentimental. Sure.
Is there an issue with helmets or helmet laws in Kansas City, Missouri?
Yes, there's not an issue with laws. We do not have a mandatory helmet law for bicyclists here. We encourage helmets. In fact, all of our bikes say, helmet hair is sexy. We have a little campaign. We encourage bike use, or helmet use. We do not give them out with the bicycles. From the back.
You mentioned that you were shocked with some of the data you received, like having visitors from out of town and everything. Is there reciprocity from the different venues, the different cities with this program?
So not yet, but they're working on it. So for example, all the B-Cycles companies, I think in Denver or in Colorado, they can exchange information. It's a pilot program there. We have not been able to, we're not in that program yet. We should be able to do it by next year.
So you mentioned density as one of your biggest problems. Have you considered kind of as we transition toward density, maybe adding where the parking spots are where people can drop off their car and then get into the bike, streetcar, other things?
Absolutely. So one of actually our most popular station and our most active station is on 3rd and Grand over at River Market at the Kiss and Ride or Park and Ride. And there's also a bike station there and a bus station. And so all those things work together. And that's the beauty of bike share. So it's not just one part of active transportation. You don't have to use the bike the entire time. You can take the bike for short trips as part of your commute.
You mentioned that that this location in Kansas City is the first private of the B-Cycles. I'm curious, what kind of cooperation have you gotten from the city?
Well, that's also a very good question. So the city helped expedite everything. When we came to them with this compressed timeline, they said, okay, let's do it. Let's get it on the ground before the All-Star game. And so they were very helpful moving things along within the city processes, which can be, we had to do a lot of pushing. But the city has also promised us something, which is that they will put down more bike lanes and more share roads around Kansas City region. So we had a proclamation from the city when we decided to do bike share that said they would put down bike lanes and share roads basically around our bike share stations. And they're starting with Southwest Boulevard. Other questions? Back in the street.
Yeah, could you talk about some of the metrics and the data that you're gathering and how you go about gathering those, or the GPS unit on bike?
Sure. So.
Repeat the question.
Sure. How do we gather our data and the GPS unit? It's.
Are there other sensors on there? Like, can you weigh the person?
You can. Well, sure. You can put that in the website, but you don't have the sensors in the bike itself. So we basically see. We see calories, where the bike goes, carbon offset, or carbon not used. Those are our metrics.
We have a question from the live stream from Matthew. Can you speak more about the cost to use B-Cycle? You mentioned annual membership, daily costs, hourly costs, etc.
Sure. So it's I'm going to work back from yearly membership. So it's $65 a year, and that is a bus pass is $60 a month. So it's cheap relative. And then it is $7 for a day, a 24-hour access pass. But that is to give you access to the B-Cycle system. Most people, when they buy that, they use it more than once during the day. And we like to use it for short trips, so for a half hour or under. What we do is we incentivize that as well. So so there's a $2 charge over every half hour to a $40 maximum amount per day. Now, I'm going to address that $40 maximum. In Kansas City, there's not a lot of bike rental. There are pretty much 2 or 3 places that rent bikes. Their charges are around $35 to $40 each. So if tourists, and we've had this happen often, if they want to come and want to rent the bicycle for the entire day, they may. And we just charge them the going rate for bicycle rental. Any other questions?
So,
Sure.
would it be fair to say that your revenue will be down in the wintertime?
Oh, very fair, because we hibernate in the wintertime. We have a 9-month season, so we're going to take the bikes and put them into hibernation very soon. Yes?
Are you profitable or sustainable, or since you're the
Well, comparatively, because we did not apply for government grants, transportation grants, we are sustainable.
Are you nonprofit or?
We are a nonprofit. We are a nonprofit organization, yes.
Why did you not apply for government grants?
Well, multiple reasons. We were on a very compressed timeline, and the government grants take 2 to 3 years to get through, to push through. Another reason is because of MAP 21, which is our new transportation bill. The new transportation bill kind of put everything in the air. So we didn't want to apply for something and have that as our plan. We wanted to make sure we could put it on the ground, and we ran it as entrepreneurially as possible. Yes, of course.
Can you talk a little bit more about your marketing, like the plan you've got with Missouri Bank?
Mm-hmm.
And how much does it cost? You said real cheap.
Oh, for our ads
for
or?
Advertising?
Oh yeah. So our advertising, our advertising on our baskets is relatively inexpensive. So if you buy more than one ad, it's about $300 per bike basket set for 3 months.
Does that include the material?
Yes, it includes all the material and everything. So it's relatively inexpensive. It definitely beats a digital ad, outdoor ad, and people look at them. People stop the bikes and say, "Hey, where did you get that? And what's going on?" So it's good advertising. Yes.
Have you thought about capturing more value in that advertising by seeing where the advertising goes?
Yes, we have. We have, and I think that will be part of our, when we go into hibernation, we'll be looking at where our advertising has, where our bikes have gone, who our advertisers were, and really have a much, I would say, enhanced plan for advertising and marketing next year.
Would you call this digital or home advertising, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like buses and benches and...
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same as bunches. It's same as buses and benches and billboards. Yes. Mm-hmm. Of course.
Since your primary or your biggest user is tourist, does your app have any kind of like guided tours of the city or anything based on the locations of your spots?
I got so excited that you asked that. It's a very good question. We're coming out with one very soon. So in the next, I would say the next few weeks, we'll come out with a coffee tour and a spa tour and a foodie tour and a vegetarian tour that can take you on tours all around the city. Now, the real exciting thing is the coffee tour is coming out, I believe, next week. So look for it. And cyclists love coffee.
Is that a revenue stream? Are you bidding on companies that are paying for that, sir, to be included?
We're working on it. It's a very good idea.
How much does a bike weigh? Is it a multi-speed bike or?
Sure. Well, do you want to get interactive? Come on up here. Come on up here. Okay, so how much do you think this bike weighs?
40 pounds.
Okay, pick it up. Ugh, it weighs a little more than 40 pounds. It's pretty heavy. It depends. Whoa, look at that. There's a spider on the bike. It's organic. So it's a pretty heavy bicycle, which is great because it's also a theft deterrent. Yeah, so you could lift this and definitely you wouldn't have to go to the gym.
How about the speeds?
Oh yeah, we're 3 speeds. And when we advance all the way to the plaza, we expect to have 7 speeds by then. Oh, back there in the blue? Absolutely, we do have a student discount, and I brought a bunch of discount cards with me today that you all may have. Okay. Uh-huh. Yes, we do have, yeah, we have a student rate. So absolutely look it up online. And we work with nonprofits. So if you have a group of people that want to do a student discount, we'll work with you. Yes.
So a lot of people come here to present, but then also sort of ask for help. Do you need anything from any of us?
Well, That's a very good question. I need all the help I can get. Bike Share KC is a labor of love. We put the bikes together with volunteers. We can use anyone from marketers to PR people to coders to just anyone that wants to give their time. We'll use advertisers. There's 3 of us that run this program, Eric, and myself. And we would accept any help that we could get. Very good question.
What happens if someone steals the bike? Like if you go in to get a Coke or something and you chain it up? Who's responsible? Is there insurance? Or?
Well, there's lots of insurance, of course, with everything. So, if someone steals the bike, sure. And yes, there's insurance involved. When you swipe your card or you become a member, there's a waiver form. And so this waiver says that you are responsible for the bicycle. If someone steals it, which is very, very unlikely, because what I have heard is, who wants to steal the ugliest bike in the world? And it's very recognizable, and we know where it goes. People usually don't steal them. I think in America, there's only been 2 cases of stolen bicycles out of all the different systems. But if something happens to the bicycle while you're on it, there's a $2,500 charge that it goes against your account. People take care of the bikes.
So your target market is tourists, and tourists are probably not always in that great a shape. And the bike weighs 40 pounds, and Kansas City's pretty hilly, so have you guys considered any electric assist?
We have. B-Cycle is in the process of working on electric assist, a trike, a carry basket, and one for kids. So hopefully within the next few years, we will have those on the ground. But Kansas Cityans can do it, and so can tourists. We can. Just got to push a little harder up the hills.
Sorry, you said you were a nonprofit.
Yes.
501c3.
Yes.
Who do you benefit? Who do you help?
Well, we help our partner company which is Bike Walk KC. So we do advocacy for basically the Kansas City area. We do safe routes to school advocacy, we do bike advocacy, we do helmet fittings, we go into schools and we talk to children about how to use pedestrian safety, and we do lots of healthy living work. Sure, of course.
I'm just saying one more question.
Oh. One more question? We can come up with something. Sure.
Do you have issues with, since it's mostly tourists, with people getting lost? And have you looked at maybe adding a navigation device onto or having a option to put it on, like maybe a Garmin navigation bike unit?
Well, absolutely. We have had a few people get lost, and in fact, one of our tricycle transit had to go get one of our users who got very lost. So, and we picked him up and got him home. On the app and on every one of our kiosks, there is a big map of the area. So they could use the app, and if not, they could stop for a map.
Just a suggestion on that, you could probably put a universal mount on the handlebars and just pop your phone in so that you can be looking at the map as you bike.
That is a great suggestion. I think we're going to send you to the R&D over at Trek. Thank you.
It may have been a great suggestion, but you broke the last question rule, Mr. Sylvester. I'm not nice like Nate, all right? So we run a tight ship here. Join me in thanking Sarah and Bike KC. All right, now you have to listen to my really boring announcements, but they're hopefully kind of exciting. One thing I want to point out, my colleague Nate last week did a great job mentioning the demo day that we have coming up that's going to help us kick off Global Entrepreneurship Week in Kansas City. However, I think he created a little bit of confusion, so I just want to explain what we're up to. And you should see these flyers out on your tables. We did this back in June, and we featured about 13 local startups. We're doing it again on November 12th, and we're going to try to double that and then some. So we're going to hopefully have about 20 to 25 companies presenting on this day. So put this date on your calendar. We'd love to have you here. We'll be over in the conference center in Town Square, which is our big conference center room. Second, we are drawing companies from 3 different groups. First is going to be companies who presented at the June demo day that have made significant progress. So I think it's going to be super exciting to hear from the companies what they've been able to accomplish in the last 6 months. So if you are one of those companies, no need to apply here. You should be getting an email from me in the next few days. We're going to ask you some questions, and we'll go from there in the selection process. The second group is what I always call new Kansas City companies. So these were companies that did not get a chance to present back in June, but would still like to have an opportunity to participate in the demo day. This is for you. This is where you need to apply at this link at the bottom. The applications, since we know you're going to wait till the last minute, you've got about another week and a half, and we did it Sunday night at midnight. So you got all weekend to get this done on the 21st. That's a week from Sunday. Week from this coming Sunday. The third group is we want to be a good neighbor, and we want to try to build a Silicon Prairie. So we've asked Silicon Prairie News to help us select some startups from Des Moines, Omaha, and the areas in between who we want to get to know and we want to help feature as well. One new added thing we're going to have this time is one of the pieces of feedback we got from last year or from the one in June, is that it wasn't really a demo day. We were trying to get so many companies in, the companies didn't get a chance to really demo their actual products. So this time we're going to allow a little bit of a showcase or a booth space, so to speak, for you to be able to interact with the companies, and you can look at their apps, you can look at their products, you can taste their artisanal ketchup or whatever the case may be. For those of you guys who are in June, you know what I'm talking about. So that's one thing. So let me know if you have any other questions on that. But please, if you want to apply, we'd love to have you. And here is the link. Also, too, I wanted to mention Think Big Partners is having kickstarts on Azure Cloud and Windows 8 app. And you should see these flyers out here somewhere on your tables. We have more if you need them. And you can go to the website there to register. This is on... Well, it's the week of October 15th, so they have events on the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. And a couple more announcements on the board. Tech Cocktail is sold out, but that is coming up very soon on the 17th. And I'm probably missing something, but I think that's it. Yes. Oh, yes. There's free swag in the back. And who's the group again, Dan? Millennial Media. So Millennial Media was here from Boston, is that what you said? Baltimore.
City's startup scene that they wanted to come to the Mobile Media Club meeting to learn more about it. So
there you go. So Kansas City's getting on the map as far as the coast go, which is awesome. There was another article last night in Pando Daily talking about it. So we're starting to make waves here. So with that, let's take a quick 5-minute break. Bathrooms are directly behind me. Grab some more coffee, and we will come back for ThumbTack.com. Thanks, everybody. Okay, up next, ThumbTack.com. Sander is going to present, but I'm going to let my colleague, Dane Stangler, introduce him and talk a little bit about why they're here and some of the research that we've done with them, which is only part of the story that they're going to talk about today. But here's Dane.
Thanks, Cameron. So some of you may be familiar with ThumbTack. Some of you may be on ThumbTack or maybe want to be on ThumbTack by the end of this. But they actually came to us. Sander called us out of the blue one day and said they had this nationwide listing of businesses, and since we do a lot of research on entrepreneurs, on new companies, on young companies, did we want to do some research using their data? And of course, we said yes, and so Yaz and Kate worked with Sander and Nathan and the ThumbTack team, and Sander, you might show some of that research, but if you want to check out more, it's thumbtack.com/survey, and I think we have another round planned, but it really helped give us insight into the challenges that you face as new businesses, as businesses trying to grow. When we come over here from research and policy, we get we have kind of a voyeuristic take on this because we get to sort of like peer into you guys and see the challenges you are facing and try to translate that back into research and policy. The guys from ThumbTack wanted to come out and just visit in person, and it happened to line up with 1 Million Cups, so we asked them to talk about sort of their story, originating on the East Coast. They moved out to San Francisco, a brief overview of what ThumbTack is, but then really the challenges they've faced in getting started, in raising money, in growing, and really trying to expand to a national footprint. So it should be a really enlightening discussion.
Thanks, Dane. And thanks, Cameron, for putting this together. Really appreciate it. So I'm Sander Daniels. I'm one of the co-founders of ThumbTack.com. Really happy to be here today. So what is ThumbTack? ThumbTack is a place where you can hire local help. So you can come to our site and you can tell us, hey, I need a carpenter in your zip code. I'm not sure what the zip code here is. Sorry about that. And then our promise is that we'll get you a couple quotes on that job to your email inbox within 24 hours. So you can hire any kind of local service on ThumbTack. We were started in 2008, 2009. To date, about 275,000 small businesses across the US have listed themselves on our site, and about 2,000 new ones sign up every week. Every month, about 1 million people come to our site, whether as a small business using the site or as someone looking to hire a small business. So we have raised money. We've raised about $6.5 million since 2009. In 2009, we raised a family and friends round of about $500,000. In 2010, we raised an angel round of $1.2 million. And then earlier this year, we raised our first VC round of $4.5 million. So how do people hear about us? For the most part right now, people hear about us through organic search results on Google. So for example, if you type in house cleaner, let's see, Kansas City into Google, then you'll see the first listing in the organic results is an Angie's List result. The second, or the next few listings are what's called Google Places results of individual companies, and then our listing is right underneath there. So we appear in Google search results for geo category queries like this all across the country. The next frontier for us that we're currently working on and we'll probably be diving into a lot next year is paid advertising in Google. So that's the links along the side of the Google results and along the top. And then, of course, the best way to advertise your company is to create a great product that people want to use and return to again and again and talk to each other about. We have some of that, but we obviously want more. It takes a long time to build a great product like that. So every day we're trying to build a great product people want to come back and use. So what is the dream and the story behind ThumbTack? In 2008, I was in law school, and two buddies and I wanted to start a company together. So for almost an entire year, we brainstormed on weekly phone calls. And we were very methodical. There was no revelation that we had. We basically asked ourselves, what is the biggest possible opportunity that we can go after? And we had a few ideas, but the one that we ultimately landed on was what is today ThumbTack. We haven't really changed the idea since then. And the dream is basically this. So there is a place online where everybody goes to buy and sell any product, and that's Amazon or eBay maybe. But there is no place where everybody goes to hire or advertise a local service. There are a lot of websites that do this to some degree. For example, Angie's List is a big one. They do only home improvement, but home improvement is only 30% really of the entire local services space. There's Craigslist, but you probably don't want to hire a babysitter off of Craigslist. There are a lot of vertically focused sites like care.com for babysitters or whatever, but there's no big one where everybody goes to do this. So that's what we're trying to build. In many ways, we got very lucky very early. As many of you know, it's pretty hard to start a business, and there's a good reason that most businesses go out of business within 3 years of starting. So some of the reasons we got lucky. One was, frankly, money. One of our founders had access to capital, and his family basically financed the entirety of the very early stages of our company, but for which we never would have been able to get off the ground. So that's one reason we were very lucky. Another reason we were very lucky is the team that we got together. So one of the founders had technical expertise, which is, of course, a requirement for any website. But more importantly, I think all the founders turned out to be just really good people. Many early stage startups fail due to disagreements among the founders, and we've been lucky enough to avoid that almost entirely. So that was lucky. Another thing was that 3 of the 4 founders had the time and flexibility to take advantage of the opportunity and commit to the product. It was really just 3 single guys working out of a townhouse for 2 years, making almost no salary, working towards a dream. So it was lucky that we had those people who were willing and able to do that. And even today, the team is really important. So we're still making very tough decisions to call the team sometimes, and we maintain extremely high hiring standards just because it's such a critical component of the entire company's success. And then I'd say the third way we got really lucky is it turns out that we stumbled onto a pretty good idea very early on. We've been validated over time by our idea. There are a lot of huge companies like Groupon and Foursquare and Amazon and many others that are kind of moving towards, in one way or another, the area that we're in and what we're trying to do. So in some way it's intimidating, in other ways it's really validating. So just to take a step back, I never really thought I would start a company, but it's one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. It feels extremely good to work with some of your best friends. So on my left sits my best friend from college. On my right sits my best friend from high school, who was the best man at my wedding, Nathan. So that's really awesome. But even more awesome is that we get to create something new in the world that people will pay us money for. It's astonishing almost every day, but it's really validating. I will say that it's not as glamorous, certainly, as it's made out to be sometimes. It's very tough to stick together and build something with a team, and it certainly doesn't come without many costs, both personally and professionally. For example, I was in DC working at a pretty good law firm, and it was a very tough decision about whether to join ThumbTack full-time. I have a wife and a kid, and we had law school loans, and to some degree it's still a big bet on whether this entire thing will turn out. Another co-founder turned down acceptance to both Stanford and Harvard business schools when ThumbTack was literally just 4 people. And our current product manager dropped out of Stanford Business School just to join ThumbTack full-time. So it's taken a lot of sacrifice by a lot of people to build the company to what it is today. Okay, so why are we here today? What's our connection to Kauffman? Dane alluded to it a little bit. So we have this access to these many small businesses across the US that's pretty unique. And we said, hey, we have this special access. We can ask them questions. We can survey them. Why don't we promote their interests because they're customers, and also provide really interesting data to policymakers? Nathan and I are kind of policy wonks, so this project turned us on a little bit. So we reached out to Dane and Yaz last year, and we said, hey, we can quickly survey a large volume of people for little cost. Would you be willing to lend your expertise on the project and help us develop this? And they jumped at the opportunity and said yes. So what we ended up doing was we surveyed the small businesses on our site, and we basically asked them, how friendly do you think your state or city is towards small business? And we also asked them a lot of more detailed questions about what in particular they thought was friendly about their area. And the sample turned out to be really interesting. 90% of the respondents were 5 employees or fewer, and that really mirrors what census data says is the general makeup of businesses in the US. A lot of small business surveys that you otherwise read about are really surveys of significantly larger businesses. So that's one reason this was interesting. So we ranked a lot of the states and cities, which was kind of the headline news and fun to do, but even more interesting, I thought, were what factors were most important to businesses when they were rating their area. So for example, one really interesting thing we found was that small businesses said professional licensing requirements were almost twice as important as tax-related regulations when they were rating the business friendliness of their area. So that was surprising to us because everybody's always talking about taxes, but we hadn't heard many people talking about the effect that professional licensing regulations have on businesses. So anyway, this was picked up by hundreds of outlets nationwide, local, regional, and national, and it was I think, a great success and very fun to work on. It was a great way to get the word out about what small businesses think, generally about public policy, and it was really gratifying to promote good data, and we hope to do it again next year. So that's kind of all I had to say. So I'm happy to take more questions. I'm going to pull up Nathan for the Q&A part too. Yeah. We have 20 in San Francisco, and we have 10 in Las Vegas, and we have a big team abroad in the Philippines too. So it's like more than 100 people in the Philippines. Yeah. Yeah.
How are you handling and managing your SEO and things?
How are you handling and managing your SEO? Are you doing it in-house or with an agency? And what challenges are you facing with that? Because you guys are trying to rank for a lot of industries and a lot of terms.
Yeah, so we do it entirely in-house. Nathan and I are our SEO team, basically. And the main challenge, probably some of you know about SEO, search engine optimization, more than others, but is the art and science of getting your listings to the top of Google's organic search results. And the most frustrating thing is that the algorithm that Google uses to produce those results is a black box. And so you have to guess a lot of the factors that they're using when they rank listings. And so, for example, we might think that A is a really important thing that they use, so we spend 2 or 3 months working on that. And then it turns out that it doesn't change their rankings at all, and they weren't using that as a ranking factor at all. So it's kind of a long-term game.
Your service obviously depends a lot on the contractors and the service providers. So in your early days, how did you go about finding all of those people?
So in the early days, right now a lot of it is organic sign up. So people see that we're out there and small businesses are looking for new ways to market themselves, so they just sign up organically. In the early days, we had to go out and find those people. So what we did actually was we developed technology to find websites of small businesses who had created websites for themselves. So it's like John the Plumber in Durham, North Carolina. And we would email him and we'd say, hey, John, we have this lead from Sandy. She needs her sink fixed on Sunday. Would you be willing to do that job? If so, come to our site, sign up, and you can respond to Sandy. So that's how it was. It was pretty, it was getting out there, yeah.
Okay, I'm curious, how do you vet the companies that you're sending out to people's homes?
Yeah, so we have a credentialing system on our site. You can look at any of the listings on our site. They have different credentials that you can earn by purchasing a background check on yourself or connecting to social media to show that you're a real human being or getting reviews. So this is actually the chef at our company, and you can see she has all these credentials on the side. She's run a criminal background check on herself. We do sex offender checks on everybody. She's verified her social security number, blah, blah, blah. And then she has all these customer reviews on the bottom. So those are basically how we check people's trustworthiness. Yeah. Yeah.
Question from the live stream. Ashley asks, as an advocate for small business, what have you observed to be the biggest regulatory barriers to entry for new small businesses?
You want to take that one?
Well, we found the biggest one were these licensing requirements. That there were a lot. It depended a lot on the area of the small business, but that seemed to be one that held true. I don't know if you guys, some of you might be familiar with Matthew Iglesias, a writer for Slate. Shortly after we put out the survey, he did a very nice article on this as well, and actually we ended up presenting at the conference for Secretaries of State about licensing regulations, among other things. This seemed to be one of the biggest, because even taxes aren't as big a deal until you actually start making money, but a lot of these things are expenses that you have to pay to get in, and you have to continue to pay every year. And often, for instance, being a barber in New York is a multi-year process of apprenticeship and things like that. So these are some areas where you might not expect, you expect this for an EMT, but you don't expect it necessarily for a barber. And so these can be major obstacles for people looking to get started.
And just to jump on that for a second, we didn't find small businesses think that all professional licensing regulations are bad, and certainly we don't think that at all. But one of the most interesting things we found after looking into this is the huge spread in time and cost it takes to become licensed, even within the same profession across different states. So for example, a New Jersey barber takes, I don't know, like 180 days of training to become a barber, but in New York City, it's like 630 days. So I don't know, but I would guess that there's probably not a huge surge of barber accidents in New Jersey because of their lower training times. So anyway, these inconsistencies really jump out at you once you start looking into it.
One more question.
Can I take the last question? Are you sure? You talked a little bit about some of the larger companies moving into the space, Amazon and others. There's also a lot of startups and other young companies moving into the space, all taking different angles. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach the competition and your strategy and how you navigate what's becoming a crowded field?
Yeah, definitely. So there are a number of well-known companies out there, certainly better known than us in Silicon Valley. You might have heard of Zarly. The founder is a Kauffman Foundation alumni. Of TaskRabbit is very well known. I would say in the early days of when we started the company, we were very methodical about tracking the progress of our competitors. I remember we had a spreadsheet set up of every company out there, big and small, that was doing what we're doing, and we'd follow all their news releases and all of this. But over time, we've seen companies that we thought were our biggest competitors go out of business or move to an entirely new business. And then we've seen competitors that weren't on our spreadsheet of 300 people surge out of nowhere to become, to go public, like Groupon. So at this point, we kind of just put our heads down and don't really worry too much about what other people are doing. We're pretty confident in what we're doing and the direction we're taking. And sure, if one of our competitors comes up with some great new innovation, then we'll certainly try to learn from that. But we've found that the heartache and the stress that comes with tracking your competitors very closely is not worth the effort over time. So.
All right, that does it in the interest of time. Want to keep you guys on time. Please join me in thanking ThumbTack, Sander. And if you have any more questions, feel free to come up and connect with everybody at the end. Want to announce one quick milestone. Today is our 6-month anniversary of 1 Million Cups. We've featured over 51 local startups, and you guys keep showing up, so we're going to keep doing it. Up next week we have Clink Mobile. Jesse Bishop is working on a plan. It's a very cool startup. They were actually featured. Her company was actually featured at our demo day back in June, essentially commoditizing cell phone minutes, particularly in foreign countries. And Bread KC, a micro-funding group focused on Kansas City artists. So come next week to see Clink Mobile and Bread KC. Otherwise, we'll see you right back here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9 a.m. Wednesday mornings here at Kauffman. Thanks, everybody.